Welcome to the Dance Studio Empire podcast, a mix of business strategies, simple tips for studio growth and success, with a touch of inspiration, motivation, plus raw and honest conversations to ensure you are building your studio empire. I'm your host, Jen Dalton, studio owner for 30 years, dance business coach, and author of the book Teaching Dance Beyond the Steps. My business philosophy is creativity is our superpower, and I believe we all have the means and ability to infiltrate this into our studio. Just sometimes we can get too busy, distracted, or overwhelmed to see that. And so this is exactly what I am here to help you do. Okay then, let's do this. Hit that subscribe button, sit back and relax. Now let's get ready to build your dance studio empire. Hello there, and thank you for joining me for today's podcast episode. During this episode, I'm going to ask you 5 questions which I'd like you to answer. And then at the end, I'll explain how your answers to those 5 questions should be the foundation of what essentially becomes your studio business blueprint. And this is what you should be using to run your studio exactly as you had dreamed. Now, whether you want to grow your studio, whether you want to solidify where you currently are, or maybe you even want to consciously consolidate, it should be done in a way that aligns your wants, your needs, and your dreams. So, where should you start? Well, I have the privilege of speaking to many studio owners across the world, and ultimately, we seem to have similar thoughts and feelings when it does come to running our studios. Now, maybe you can relate to some of these. So, some of the answers from studio owners are there's too much to do and not enough time, or they want to spend more time with their family and have dinner together. Maybe they want to spend more time teaching and not having to deal with the business or even dealing with the parents. Maybe they want to spend more time working on the business and growing that. And then another common one was there were studio owners who wanted to grow, but they just weren't sure what they needed to do to grow. One thing this pandemic has showed us, and I know there were some negatives, but just how important time away from the business can be to see that bigger picture, because it's the day-to-day details that keeps everything so close, and we have that never-ending to-do list that keeps us busy, that we're no longer creating our future, we're just responding to those responsibilities of the day-to-day. And while we're busy being busy, life's passing us by. And so at the beginning of this year, I decided to just attack my business in a different way. So from this year, I just decided to simplify, less chaos, less stress and overwhelm by doing less better. And how am I going so far? Pretty good. I think things are going well. The studio is absolutely thriving. So it's working. But more importantly, I'm in such a better headspace. So I'm feeling a lot more calm. I'm feeling a lot more relaxed, but I'm still able to manage the business, my teachers, my staff in a better way. So yeah, I think it is working. And I will keep you updated and tell you how it keeps going throughout the year. But what do you think? Does any of this resonate with you at all? I don't know. You do need to remember, we still need to do the work and you still need to stay focused and have a plan, but it doesn't need to come at the sacrifice of our family or friends or, more importantly, our mental and emotional health. And so this episode, I'm going to tell you where I started when I had this realization, and now it's actually an integral part of when I first start working with studio owners. So for now, if you're not driving, go and grab a pen and grab a coffee or a tea while I ask you these 5 questions. Obviously, if you are driving, you can't write, but when you are writing, I encourage you to pause the podcast just to have a think and have a bit of time to answer the questions thoroughly, because I'll tie it all up at the end and make it all make sense to you. And as I go through each of the questions, I'll actually give you real life examples and case studies from other studios. All right, let's get into it. So, question one: what did you like and enjoy during the time you weren't physically able to be at the studio? Okay, what did you like and enjoy during the time you weren't physically able to be at the studio? Now, some answers from other studio owners were simply being home at night. One other one said having more time to work on her business. Several said not having to deal with their parents, which I find really interesting. So these are just some answers from other studio owners. But what is it for you? What is it that you liked and enjoyed? Question number two: what did you miss during the time of lockdown? Now, I want you to think about this both professionally, so within your business, as well as personally. So, what did you miss during the time of lockdown, professionally and personally, while not physically being able to be at the studio or to go out? What is it that you missed? Some common answers from studio owners that I was speaking to was not they missed seeing their kids in person. They missed that energy exchange in the classroom. I know for me, that is something that I found really prominent, was that energy exchange. Even though we were doing the Zoom classes, like pretty much everybody else, there was just, you just weren't able to have that real deep connection. And so that was something that I definitely missed. Other studio owners, they missed being around their team. Personally, date nights with your partner, and probably the biggest and most common was holidays, not being able to have holidays. So what was it for you, though, that you missed during that time? Moving on to number three. So question three is, what was or currently is your biggest challenge now that we're back with our new normal in the studio? Okay, what is or was your biggest challenge going back to the new normal? And again, this can be emotionally, this can be physically, whatever it is to you. And the answers varied for this. So it could be the biggest challenge is financially. You know, you're now dealing with smaller numbers, less people have come back. It could be keeping momentum going in the studio because you've stopped and changed so much. How do you get things rolling again? How do you get your families back on board? Maybe your challenge is training your teachers or your parents about the new way that the studio needs to run. There's rules now we have to follow. What is your biggest challenge? Number four is, what has surprised you? So what surprised you? And I'm talking your feelings towards your business. I'm talking towards your studio, as well as your personal life. What surprised you? Now, this is probably one of the biggest revelations for one studio owner, is that she found spending less time at the studio made her more calm and less anxious. Now, that's very big. Others were how amazing their team actually is. So, although they had a team and they thought they were great, it wasn't until they stepped away that they realized how important the team is. Maybe someone had said to me how much the business actually it takes time to run and how much energy it takes for them. So they were doing it, but again, just being busy in the day to day, like I spoke about earlier, it wasn't until they stopped that they realized how much it was taking. And then another one was how much they actually enjoyed working on the business as opposed to teaching, or vice versa, actually hated working on the business, but love the teaching and just want to get back in front of those kids. Very eye-opening. Okay, and then finally, question 5 is, can you identify things and certain areas that you want to change? Now, this is very broad. So this could be improved profitability. So maybe financially, you're like, yeah, no, it's time to change. This is what we need to do. One of my studio owners said she wanted to do a complete rebranding, name change, color change, rebranding, everything across the board. More structured curriculum was a common one. So they could sort of see the benefits of taking that step back and like, okay, if I go back in with a more structured curriculum, it's going to run smoother. They can sort of see the bigger picture that way. And more me time. So time for yourself. How are you able to step away, switch off from the business? These are the things that you want to change. So they're pretty big. Okay, so they are your 5 questions. And now that if you can pause the podcast and take a bit of time to fill it out, excellent. Um, but we're going to go straight into now. I'm going to explain what each of your answers means. Okay, so going back to question 1, what did you like and enjoy during the time you weren't physically able to be at the studio? Going back to the answers that I had from you from other studio owners was being home at night, having more time to work on the business, not having to deal with your parents. The answers to question 1, they actually become the goals that you're working for. So if your answer was, I just want to be home more at night, how can you now implement things into your studio, into your business with a goal of being home more at night? How can you do that? Having more time to work on the business. That's now your goal. How can you implement things to achieve that goal of having more time to work on your business? Question 1, those answers are your goals. Question 2 was, what did you miss during the time of lockdown? And remember, I asked you to think about this within your business, professionally, as well as personally. What did you miss? Now, your answers to this, it could have been you miss seeing the kids in person. You miss being around your team. Personally, maybe it was date nights with your partner or, going on holidays. These are your non-negotiables, okay? These are the things you must include in your plan as these are the things that fill your soul. These keep you going day to day. Your non-negotiables. Answers to number 2 are your non-negotiables. Number 3, okay, what was or is your biggest challenge going back to your normal? So having a look at your answers of this. Now, is it financially, dealing with the smaller numbers, getting that momentum going, training your teachers? Your answers to this, all I need you to do is actually identify what these are, and then we need to work out ways to overcome them because these are your challenges. And what's going to happen with these are the things that are going to slow you down or stop you from growing or moving the business the way you want because you're focusing on these challenges. Okay. So the idea of these answers for number 3 is just to make sure that you have identified them and then you need to start working ways to overcome them. That is what you need to get from question 3. All right, question 4. What has surprised you? Okay, so again, this is towards your business, feelings towards your business, your personal life, the studio as a whole. What has surprised you? Now, I mentioned earlier, the biggest one for me was the studio owner that said, spending less time at the studio has made me feel more calm and less anxious. Your answers to these are about awareness. So the awareness of how you are feeling, the awareness of things around you. It's really important that you identify these because we do get so busy and distracted that we forget what we love and what we don't love. And this question will actually highlight your inner truths and feelings. So go back and have a look how you answered this, and then what can you do to either combat that or enhance that in your business and also in your personal life. So, going back to how amazing your team is, you became a little bit complacent. You always thought they were great, but maybe you didn't realize how great they are. So what can you do now that you're aware of that to enhance that and encourage them and build them up to be bigger and better? That's what you need to look at for your answers to question 4. And finally, question 5, can you identify things and certain areas that you want to change and why? Now, again, this is very broad. Now, this is the big picture stuff. So whether it was improved profitability, the big rebranding or the renaming of your studio, the structured curriculum. The answer to this, these are going to become your area of focus that you should be working on. They're essentially going to become mini projects, but these shouldn't all be done all at one time, and they're not going to be done fast. So these are, if you look at it, sort of your bigger picture plan, but we're going to break them down into mini projects. So say you have 4 or 5 on your list, I would encourage you just to look at one, the most important one that you want to start with, and then just start with that one, but finish it completely before you then start the next one. This is just really giving you just the big picture plan. Okay, that's it. They're the 5 questions. So what's the goal? What's the reason I'm talking about this? The goal for you, well, for me, and really it should be for all of us, is to run your studio exactly how you dreamed, in the way that aligns with your vision, with your values, and your life. We need to try and spend more time doing things that you love and not distracted and busy doing the things you don't. However, there is a caveat with that, because there are things you are going to have to do as a business owner that you don't want to do. And we have to do that. That's just part of the job for sure. But I don't want it to dominate your life. I don't want it to become everything that you are focusing on. It becomes your being, because that is what happens. We get so stuck in this spiral. And so that is why I want you to have a look at your answers to the questions and ask yourself, are you still running your studio as you originally dreamed? Does it align with your vision, your values, and your life? And if it doesn't, now is the perfect time to get that back on track. The time's now. You can do that. So I hope you have been able to go through those questions and find some really deep answers. If you found this episode helpful, I'd love for you to share it with other studio owners, because they may find it valuable as well. Okay, until next week, I just encourage you to keep building your dance studio empire, and I'll be back with more information, tips, and tricks next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of Dance Studio Empire. If you enjoyed it, please share it on your stories on Instagram, and be sure to tag me at Dance Teacher Central so I can say thank you. And if you really want to support me and the show, I'd absolutely love for you to leave a rating or review. For all the latest from me, you can follow me at Dance Teacher Central on Instagram and Facebook. Be sure to tune in next week for more strategies and tips to ensure you are building your dance studio empire.